Alrighty, so these are my three audience members. Hi, my name is Oasis Lopez, and I'm going to inform you about GDP. So, what even is GDP? GDP is a monetary measure of a nation's production and service value. For a long time, the only way to somewhat measure the economy was through how many shipments a nation had or how successful a harvest was going. There wasn't any true way to measure how bad or well an economy was faring. So during the Great Depression, the economy really took a hard hit, and the president at the time, which was Franklin Roosevelt, wanted to get a better understanding of what was going on, and that is how the concept of GDP came to be. GDP is made from four main components. The first main component is consumption. Consumption is the day-to-day use of goods and services used by a household. The second major component is investment, which is either public investment or private investment. And that can be new capital goods, business equipment, factories, real estate, housing construction. Now, the third major component is government spending, which is on infrastructure, equipment, and payroll. Now, the last and fourth major component is imports and exports, which is also known as net exports. Now, although GDP lets us know the overall economy, it doesn't take into consideration inflation. That is known as nominal GDP since it uses the current prices. Once you take into consideration inflation, that is now known as real GDP. So what even is inflation? In economics, inflation is the general rise in price level over a certain time period. This can happen for many reasons, like, the most common being printing too much money. So what happens when inflation starts going up is that the value of whatever currency the nation's using starts to go down. For example, if you wanted to buy a loaf of bread and you pay $1 for it, if a nation is experiencing high inflation rates, that same loaf of bread would now be worth $3. You can start calculating real GDP by dividing nominal GDP, which uses current price levels, divided by the GDP deflator. So, for example, if the economy's prices rise by 2% during that year, the GDP deflator would be 1.02. If the prices rise by 5%, the deflator would now be 1.05. So while GDP has its use, many people like to use it as a method to find the standard of living. So, and that's not the most accurate reading since GDP has many things missing. Income inequality is a big factor missing from GDP. GDP can show that a nation's economy improved based on income increases, but it doesn't show that the income increases were from people already making 6 figures or 7 figures a year. Another issue of GDP is that anything sold or bought illegally or through the black market isn't counted within the value, which can throw it off. GDP counts new and old capital as the same, with the same value, which is incorrect since new capital is worth more than old capital. So if you want to understand and see standards of living of a nation, such as life expectancy, environmental welfare, literacy, and so forth, there are some other sources that provide a much more accurate reading. For example, the Human Development Index, the Genuine Process Indicator, and the Happy Planet Index. So in conclusion, GDP is great for its intended use, which is to measure a nation's production and service value. But when you use it to try to find the standard of living, or for other purposes, the reading would then be inaccurate, since that's not its purpose. All right? And my sources, all this information was gotten from NPR.org, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, which is the BEA.gov, the OECD.org, and thebalanced.com. All right, thank you for your time.